so much for having me. I apologize for being a little late. It's that time of the year, November and December, where NFL and NBA cross, and you just keep your head above water. Yeah, I loved everything you said about the Saints game. It was a fun one to cover. There were so many interesting storylines from, I don't know if y'all had heard, they've been playing the Circle of Life in the locker room all week long. Everything that goes around eventually comes around. So while the coaching staff might not have said Greg Williams' name to those players last week, the message was certainly sent and most definitely received. It's the most animated I've ever seen Sean Payton on the sidelines. To me, you would have thought they were coming from behind with an onside kick, winning a Super Bowl, as excited as he got on several of those plays. And I can tell you, Greg Williams as well, it was personal for him. I'm sure most of you read and saw the altercation with Jeff Fisher. I actually planted myself outside the Rams locker room. I wanted to be there when he walked out on the dome field for the first time. And you know Greg, he never lacks in confidence or words. And he was very quiet. He just drank it all in for a few moments. Really kind of had to steady himself. So I think it runs deep for both sides, for both men, and certainly for this city. My Twitter feed lit up like nothing else. I had several reports going back to Bounty Gate, recalling the price tag for the team, for Drew Brees. Even though he wasn't suspended, so much was on his shoulders during that year with the coaching carousel. He was the one constant, the one steady, and it showed in his performance. Certainly it weighed on him heavily. So for everybody involved, I think they're probably glad to have this one behind them, and at least in New Orleans, glad the way that it turned out. I worked with Rondé Barber and Chris Myers. Y'all might remember him. He cut his teeth here back in the day at WWL TV, and we, in my opinion, have been lucky enough to have the Saints several times this season. We have them again this upcoming week against the Detroit Lions. And one thing that has struck me with the Saints as of late is the way they've brought this running game on. It's been fun to watch Tim Hightower and Mark Ingram have such great success. 2 touchdowns for Mark Sunday, 1 through the air, and a receiving touchdown as well for Tim Hightower, which I think will match up interestingly with the Lions because they are in the bottom 10 in terms of giving up yardage out of the backfield to receiving running backs. So I think it could be a big day for Mark and Tim once again. Matt Stafford, a Drew Brees disciple. He has long said he has studied him since he was in high school. Their heights are similar. He feels like there are a lot of physical traits that are the same, so he wants to study Drew and emulate what he's done. And then having having the quarterback's coach, forgive me, having him in Detroit for so long also really was a boost for Matt in terms of learning how Drew does what he does. How does he approach the game? What is his rest time, his days off? How do you spend game day? How early do you get to the locker room? Do you go out there and spend the entire pregame warm-up period resting or working? All those little tiny details that might seem to not matter, but they really do. And when you talk about being a pro's pro, I think that's something Matt is really focused on sharpening and getting better at. You're going to see him quicker decision making. He's getting better mentally with the mental reps and the being able to read things and react without thinking about them. He's also moving with his feet better. He's averaging almost 6 yards per carry when he gets the ball. So a little bit of a different passer, not necessarily always a pocket passer. So I think it'll be a fun matchup, a good one to watch. I hope y'all are all also planning to come out to the Pelicans game tonight. They play the Lakers tonight, and then on Friday they have the LA Clippers. And that's been an interesting team. Boy, 4-game win streak, they looked so good. Then they had some letdowns on the road as of late. I think we'll be getting Tyreek Evans back sooner rather than later. And he looks good, y'all. His body fat is down to 7%. Best physical shape he's been in his life. Now, getting your basketball legs back underneath you is a little bit different story, of course, but he's been preparing for this. I think from a mental standpoint, from a maturity standpoint, this is the most prepared I've seen him. He's really dialed in, and it being a contract year never hurts. That always seems to get folks' attention. The knock on him, of course, has been, does he fit Alvin Gentry's system? The up-tempo, pass the ball a lot, the more assists, the better. Tyreek's kind of a guy who will slow the game down, stand at the top of the key, picking his shot. But he's going to be on a minute restriction for a while probably on that knee, and may not play back-to-backs either. So the plan is you can run plays, you can design the game plan to suit what he does, if it's only going to be for 15 minutes per game, and then open it back up for the rest of the team the rest of the time. So it'll be interesting to see how that works, whether that works. This team that you're looking at right now, Drew Holiday and Anthony Davis had quite a significant amount of input into who to bring in. They were brought to the table to discuss what players they didn't want. I won't name names, but you can look at some of the folks who are no longer with the Pelicans this season and who they did. So certainly there's a great deal of a sense of ownership with AD and with Drew. I think that's part of the reason Drew was so excited to come back so early. You all, I know, have followed the story about Lauren Holiday. In fact, last time I was here, she was here speaking as well. Thoughts and prayers with her, that her recovery is going well. But boy, what a difference Drew makes, not only in the locker room, but also out on the court. Anthony Davis, I always get asked about his development, how he's changed. To me, the biggest change this year has been his sense of responsibility, his sense of leadership. He's never been a poor locker room influencer, ever. But he's more quiet. He's not the guy who's going to walk up to Tyreek or somebody else and call them out on certain things, hold the team accountable, perhaps say, no, we're not taking tomorrow off, we're coming in and working. This year, you're seeing that. This year, he's feeling more comfortable having that vocal voice to step up in front of everybody and talk. And I think it makes a big difference. So I have high hopes for this team. I think things are starting to come together. They're getting some pieces back when they get Tyreek. Quincy Pondexter, we're just going to have to see. That's been an odd one, a bit of a head scratcher. He too is in a contract year. Similar surgery on Quincy's the right knee, Tyreek's the left knee. Very similar procedures there with both men. His recovery is just taking a little bit longer. But like I said, given the fact it's contract years for both, you got to play. You got to prove that those knees are game ready, game tested, whether it's going to be because you want to get paid here in New Orleans or somewhere else. And then Check Diallo, just recalled him from the D League. He had a lot of success there. So curious to see him out on the court, curious to see the product, what he puts forward, how much he's developed. He's a great kid. He's just very young basketball-wise. I didn't play a lot of basketball from an American standpoint, from Africa. And even when he was in college, he had some injuries that kept him sidelined for a while. So I think that's a diamond in the rough that is going to be fun to watch him develop over time as it goes. So thank you all so much for having me. If you have any questions, I would be happy to field them.
Raise your hand.
Do you ever read on Buddy Hale? He had it as a rookie.
Buddy Hale? Yeah. You know, certainly the rookie learning curve has been tough for him, no doubt. But I think that's somewhat to be expected. He was a 4-year player in college. There's a reason he didn't come out right away. I like his attitude. I like the fact that he takes coaching well. He never gets down on it. And NBA players, it's different than football. You know, there's a greater sense of entitlement to me. I think because they're identified so young and told you're going to be a superstar in this league, you're going to make millions. I've seen a lot of young players really chafe at being chastised or corrected. Buddy is not like that. He wants to get better. He wants to learn. He asks for the feedback constantly. So I think we are going to see him improve dramatically, and we've seen already spurts when he gets into a rhythm. He's got to adjust better to the speed of the game, and he has to make faster decisions. Right now when he's in, they really pare back that playbook, that game plan. They're trying not to throw too much at him. So that's going to be his next step if he wants to be a pro's pro, if he wants to develop like a first-round pick. He's going to have to catch up to that speed of the game and not need that babying, that handling. But I don't think his development is slower than what the average should be, certainly. I mean, the coaching staff said going in he was going to need 30 to 40 games easily to catch up. And so that's hopefully about right where he is. Yes, sir?
That was the same question.
The
same question about the rookie.
He'll get there. Anybody else?
Drew Holiday is playing a little bit of limited minutes. Is that due to stress on his leg or conditioning? And when do you expect that to ramp up to?
Yeah, you know, it's a very good question. At least officially, it is not due to the stress on his leg. They say it's 100%. But when you haven't played basketball, when you haven't had that type of contact with defenders, I think it's a question mark. And as much as it's been injured, when you have the same injury in the same place over and over, it's going to be weaker. I don't care how great the surgery or the doctor or the procedure can be, it's always going to be an area of concern. So officially, they're saying no, 100%. That this minute restriction is simply to allow him to work back into basketball shape, because although he was training in North Carolina 2 days, he was working hard. That's different than 5-on-5, getting up in somebody's grill, taking those shots. So I think they're also probably carefully monitoring that knee and that leg. Don't need another stress fracture, don't need another procedure there. Much better to be smart rather than too aggressive with that. And part of the reason you're seeing him come off the bench is the way they want to organize those minutes. Last year, when he came back from injury, they had him in the starting lineup, and then they pulled him out to rest him, and then put him back in the second half. And he really felt like he got out of rhythm. He got cold. He would rather play those minutes in a chunk. So that's why you're seeing him come in at the 3, 4, 5 minute mark, so he can play through. He can have those short timeouts to rest his breaks and keep those minutes in a group. And I think it's going to grow from there. And also, geez, with the way Tim Frazier's playing at starting point guard, if it's not broken, don't fix it. And AD loves that Tim Frazier connection. He was very against the decision to trade Ish Smith last year. So I think there is an emphasis on keeping him happy with who's dishing out the ball, and he really likes Tim. Not to say he doesn't like Drew, but he and Tim have a special connection.
Have you met anyone that likes the name Baby Cakes for a sports franchise?
I don't like the name Baby Cakes. It's different. It's unique. I guess it'll be a conversation piece. Look, I can't tell you how much I had to go to bat for the Pelicans name. I'm still searching for the same logic and campaign for Baby Cakes. I haven't found it yet. If anyone has any suggestions, I'm all ears. Anybody else? Thank you all very much.